Look at this part in the game. If I move the camera slowly up and down, you'll see that the light on the surface is making artifacts. Even the sharpness is getting lower due to the motion blur effect. Here's a comparison. On the left side, we have motion blur on, and on the right side, we turn the motion blur off. In my opinion, it is better to turn motion blur off. I know it's a nice effect and we usually keep them in many games, but as you've seen in this test, motion blur doesn't look great in this game. Some games have much better motion blur effects like God of War Ragnarok, The Last of Us Part 1 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and they all handle motion blur very well. In the Callisto protocol, keeping it off is better. Even when we turn it off, you will still feel a little motion blur. By the way, the testing video is in performance 60 FPS mode. This issue is not because of low FPS but because the effect doesn't look satisfying. In this video, I will show you the best settings in the Callisto protocol for PS5. We will go through all visual, audio and controller settings. Some of these settings like HDR are valid for other consoles like PS4 and Xbox. So the first thing I would recommend is going to the settings, options, graphics and disable motion blur. I would also recommend playing in performance mode as the game will run at 60 FPS target frame rate and it feels smoother. However, the graphics still looks pretty nice on my 27-inch monitor and 43-inch TV. I don't feel so much difference. Quality mode is 30 FPS and I can't play on 30 FPS, especially in a game with so much shaking and camera movement. I will get a headache. 60 FPS is the key. Remember that you can only change the graphic mode in the menu. When you are in the game, you can't change it, so you must save your game wherever you are, go to the menu and change it to the performance if you like to. This game doesn't support VRR natively on PS5. However, I did apply it by force and it was working well in 4K 60 FPS mode and there was no issues in my test. I recommend going to your PS5 settings, screen and video section. Change the VRR option to automatic and enable apply to unsupported games. This will force VRR to work with this game. Your screen may blink one time when you turn it on. So in terms of graphics, VRR and performance modes are recommended. But what about HDR settings? Is it good? How to get the best HDR settings in the Callisto protocol? Regarding HDR or SDR, the game will offer similar quality in terms of colors and how it handles the console's brightness. However, in SDR we have gamma options like 2.2, 2.4 and sRGB, which is appreciated and I will talk about them soon. Some of my friends reported it looks washed out with HDR on PC. Let me know if you play on PC and if you have any issues. On the console, it uses built-in PS5 HDR settings and you also have a brightness slider in the game. But the first issue in this game on both HDR and SDR comes to gray darks, which means black areas aren't black, dark spots aren't dark, and they look a little gray in both HDR and SDR. It isn't broken at all and I'm going to show you how to get the best settings for them. So how to fix gray darks or black level in the Callisto protocol. I will show you two ways to fix that. The first is fixing the issue with the console's HDR setting. If that wasn't good for you or didn't work, the second way is calibrating your TV contrast, dark level, gamma or brightness settings. In order to get the HDR settings, you must turn HDR on PS5 before you open the game. If you don't do that, you will get SDR settings and a broken HDR. As I've been testing, the game looks a bit gray in dark areas, and since this game uses built-in PS5 HDR settings, if you make the third step darkest in the console HDR settings, it affects the game black level as well. So if you make step 3 of 3 absolutely dark, it helps the dark areas to be darker. If you don't want to change your TV settings, this is one of the easiest ways to fix those dark blacks. But when you want to play another game, you must calibrate PS5 HDR settings again. Here I show you how to do the PS5 HDR calibration correctly. Before you calibrate HDR settings on PS5 or PS4, please turn off any TV processing like dynamic tone mapping. Please set it to HGIG for LG TVs and contrast enhancer on Samsung TVs off. Also for gamma settings, set it to 0 or middle, whatever the default number is. In the PS5 HDR settings, follow these steps. In steps 1 of 3 and 2 of 3, first make the sun logo visible, then go higher step by step to a step where you don't see it anymore. Don't go higher than that. In step 3 of 3, first see the sun logo, then go lower until it becomes barely visible, then go one step lower to blend it in the background. The exact process goes for PS4. By the way, this game is mostly in darkness. I recommend playing it in a low light room. Don't play it in a very bright or sunny room, especially if you are playing on an OLED. You won't see anything that way. Now, if changing HDR settings level 3 to the darkest section won't satisfy you in the game, as it doesn't satisfy me, you can change the TV settings instead. What I'm about to show you exists in every TV and monitor, but maybe with a different name in a different location. I will show you where it is on my TV and monitor. In the Samsung TV, a brightness slider controls the black level. If I go higher, blacks will look more grayish, and if I go lower, they become darker. So for this game, I need to go lower, maybe even to -5 to fix that black issue. There is a gamma level in this Gigabyte monitor which make dark areas darker if I change it to a higher value. This black equalizer does the same thing but doesn't work on HDR since it's limited to SDR. So depending on your TV or monitor model, find a setting that controls the dark areas and make them darker for this game, but not too dark that you lose details in game. The best place is to test is here. Try to go lower until in this dark area the black looks black, not gray. After that, go to the options, graphics, brightness. This slider controls the overall exposure. It's not like a gamma or brightness slider, so if I go to maximum, it will make the whole game brighter. It also crashes the bright areas in the game, and even this place doesn't look dark anymore. Due to my test, changing it to lower than the default isn't recommended, as it reduces the maximum peak brightness unless you are playing in a dark room, which I don't recommend. It's better to have a little light in your room, don't go to absolute darkness. What I recommend for this setting is to try to adjust it to somewhere that you can see his hair, not going lower than that in this middle picture. Also in the right picture, look and ensure this light effect will not go over this part. You see, when I go lower, the light is delicate. Now I go step by step higher, and from here you see if I go higher, it starts clipping, affects the areas around it. So I stop precisely here, where the light is okay, and not go over this circle. I can also see the hair, giving me an excellent overall brightness. If you look, we are still getting details here, and it's not clipping much. Anything higher will cause clipping like this. Now you are looking at the game on my TV with the settings I showed you, and it looks pretty nice. SDR settings. To get the correct SDR settings like gamma and brightness slider, you must close the game, turn off the HDR in the console settings, and then open it again. Otherwise, it will be a half broken HDR combined with SDR. In SDR mode, we have the same gamma issues if you are playing on default TV 2.2 and TV 2.4, and TV 2.4 is even worse. But monitor sRGB actually fixes those black areas and makes the whole contrast higher. Here's a comparison between TV 2.2 and monitor sRGB. As you see, monitor sRGB looks perfect and doesn't need any change in TV settings or black level. For the SDR brightness, if you go lower to make logo barely visible, it makes dark areas pretty nice. But as you can see, in compared to HDR, the brightness is low and the lights can't get bright enough. If you go higher than default, it doesn't help that and just ruins the shadow details. You should keep SDR brightness in the middle or lower to make the logo barely visible. But again, the game max brightness will be low on SDR. That's why I don't recommend playing on SDR, and it's better to calibrate HDR. If you are asking where should I put the slider for SDR, there is no specific number that I show you, as it really depends on your TV model, settings, and more. So try to learn how to do it instead of copying anybody's settings. Some TVs and monitors can have different profiles for picture settings. For example, this Gigabyte monitor I use has this function. So I made a setting profile and adjusted it for this game. When I want to play another game, I switch to other profiles. It is a perfect function and I love it. Here's Here's a comparison between HDR and SDR quality. Of course, don't judge by this footage as my camera can't capture the same quality. Still, the fact is both have medium quality, but SDR can't get bright enough. I recommend and prefer HDR with the TV calibration. That said, I want you to feel free to choose between SDR and HDR. Calibrate the gamma and dark areas, then see which looks better to you depending on your TV model. Sensitivity settings. In gameplay settings, you can change aim and look sensitivity. Default settings are too slow in this game, so I made them both 100. Even 100 feels slow for me. I don't know why they made it so slow, and there is no acceleration option to make it faster. With motion sensor aiming, you can control your aim by moving your controller when aiming. It's fun to try, but I prefer to keep it off. Accessibility settings. There is one crucial option to mention here. In screen options, reduce camera shake. So typically this game has so much shaking in the camera because of how it's designed. It's adorable, but if you feel you get a headache or it bothers you, turn it on and reduce it from 100, which is maximum shake, to 0, which is the no shake at all. It doesn't affect environment shaking. As you see, it only affects the camera, but it's better than nothing. If you have motion sickness, you know what I'm talking about. The next option is audio settings. Sound design and effects are outstanding in this game, but at the same time they are a bit problematic in some cases. If you play with headphones, I recommend making the radio banter volume less, as it sounds too loud compared to the game and your character. Have a listen to this part, which is 100% default.
I've known him forever. He was this thing. He attacked me.
You hurt?
No, but...
As you heard, it sounds too loud. However, if you play on a TV or a stereo speaker device, it will be played on your controller speaker. Then it's okay.
You know, turning them into those things. Take that elevator.
The options are limited in this game, but the directional sound is designed well. So let's talk about 3D audio and Pulse 3D headset. Do I recommend using 3D audio for this game? No. I suggest you go to PS5 settings, sound and 3D audio for headphones and turn it off. In this game, 3D audio will only ruin the sound quality. I made a video in that I explained how 3D audio works on PS5, when to use it and when not to use it, where you can check from the cards above or the link in the comments. But as a summary, it's better not use it for this game. About Pulse 3D headset, if you use Pulse 3D, press home, sound, make sure the headset is connected wirelessly and use this EQ I designed for this game. It's a bit different from flat EQ, but for Pulse 3D headset, it will give you better quality than the original presets. Give it a try and let me know what you think. In graphics, the film grain option is set to on by default, and since it doesn't bother me at all and the amount is not noticeable, I keep it on. If you remember, in The Last of Us Part 1, it was very high that I even made a video about that. And if you are wondering if it's good to use 3D audio for TV speakers on PS5, you can check this video next where I cover the best PS5 settings for the new update. You will get all answers that you need. I don't say bye since I see you in that video.